The marketplace was alive with the usual buzz of shoppers, vendors calling out deals, and the scent of fresh bread wafting through the air. Among the crowd, a small girl stood at the edge of a bakery, her wide eyes fixed on the delicious cupcakes, displayed inside. She looked no older than 8, her clothes tattered and her hair unkempt. Her tiny hands clenched into fists as she watched the shopkeeper move about, attending to customers. Hunger gnawed at her insides, but she didn't have a single coin. She waited, heart pounding, until the shopkeeper stepped into the storage room. This was her chance. Quick as a flash, she darted forward, grabbed 2 cupcakes from the counter, and bolted down the street. The shopkeeper returned just in time to catch sight of her vanishing into the crowd. He stood frozen, stunned. He had seen the girl before, always watching, always hungry, but never had she dared to steal. Yet something about her desperate grab told him there was more to the story than simple theft. A test of character the next day. The shopkeeper devised a plan. Instead of chasing the girl away, he decided to test her. He prepared a bag full of cupcakes and, inside, carefully tucked a small sum of money. Then, he placed it on the counter outside his shop and stepped back, pretending to be busy. It wasn't long before he spotted her again. The little girl hesitated, glancing around nervously. After ensuring no one was watching, she grabbed the bag and ran. This time the shopkeeper was ready. He quietly followed her, weaving through the streets at a safe distance. She ran past rows of houses, past bustling streets, until she reached a small, run-down camp on the outskirts of town. Hiding behind a tree, the shopkeeper watched as she pulled out the cupcakes and handed them to 2 younger children, both frail, both unable to move easily. The sight made his heart ache. He suddenly understood. She wasn't stealing for herself. She was stealing to feed her little sisters. He turned and walked away, leaving her in peace. A surprise. Return moments later, the unexpected happened. After ensuring her sisters had eaten, the girl reached into the bag and found the money. Her eyes widened in shock. She stared at it for a moment, then clutched it tightly and ran back in the direction of the shop. The shopkeeper had just reached his store when he saw her approaching, breathless and hesitant. She stopped in front of him and stretched out her small hands, offering the money back. "I didn't know there was money in the bag," she said softly. "I only wanted the food." The shopkeeper studied her face, moved beyond words. Here she was, a child with nothing, yet she refused to take what didn't belong to her. A warm smile spread across his face. Without a word, he took the money and disappeared into his shop. A new beginning. A few minutes later, he returned holding a large basket filled with fresh apples. He placed a small sign on the basket that read $2 per apple and set it up on a small table outside. Then he turned to the girl. "Sit here," he said gently. "Sell these apples, and whatever money you make is yours." The little girl looked at him in disbelief. "Really?" He nodded. "Really?" She hesitated, unsure, but finally took a seat beside the basket. She wasn't sure if anyone would buy from her, but she was willing to try. At first, people walked past without noticing. But soon, a kind old woman stopped, picked up an apple, and handed her some money. Another man followed, giving her extra coins. Slowly, more people began stopping, not just to buy apples, but to support her. Some handed her more than the asking price, while others simply smiled at her in encouragement. As the day went on, the little girl's expression changed. For the first time in a long while, she smiled, a true, heartfelt smile. By evening, every apple in the basket was gone. Her small hands trembled as she counted the money. It was more than enough to buy food for her sisters. Tears welled up in her eyes, but this time, they were tears of gratitude. The shopkeeper watched from the doorway, his heart swelling with joy. He had given her something far more valuable than a meal. He had given her a chance, a future filled. With hope from that day on, the little girl returned to the shop every morning, eager to sell apples. People in town began to recognize her, stopping by to buy fruit or offer small donations. With the money she earned, she was able to feed her sisters without having to steal. Day by day, they grew healthier, stronger, and happier. The shopkeeper never asked for anything in return, but he received something priceless: her unwavering gratitude and the satisfaction of knowing that a small act of kindness had changed a life. One afternoon, as the sun set over the marketplace, the little girl approached the shopkeeper with a small bag in her hands. She placed it on the counter. "What's this?" he asked. She smiled shyly. "My first savings. I want to buy more apples so I can keep selling. I want to take care of my sisters myself." The shopkeeper felt a lump in his throat. He ruffled her hair and nodded. "You are a very strong girl," he said. "I will help you." And so, with the help of a kind stranger, a little girl who once had nothing found a way to build a future, not just for herself, but for the people she loved. Drop a heart for kind souls.